Hi there. Come on in. I'm Fred Trost. It's Christmas Day. I hope all of you and your families had a great time on Christmas, a good, safe Christmas. Now, we're going to have a show that's, well, it's special to me because it's about the people who make Michigan Outdoors what it is. Special people like Mort Neff, Mr. Michigan Outdoors, fellow who taught me the ropes of outdoor television. I spent some time with Mort, a little over a year ago, talking about the past, talking about the future. We're going to bring that to you in just a moment. And also, I got Mort to do the opening of the show, the tease, the way he did it since 1951. Could you do a tease? Do a tease. No, it's 7 o'clock Thursday night.
No.
How did that go? Okay, let's do it this way.
No,
How did that tease go that you used to do at the beginning of the show? What was that you used to say?
You do it perfectly.
No, what was that?
Hi there, come on in. 7 o'clock Thursday night, time for Michigan Outdoors.
From the rugged shore and woodland.
In the mid-1960s, this man's face was more recognized by people in Michigan than our governors. At 82 years old, Mort Neff is still recognized by millions of people and always will be as Mr. Michigan Outdoors. And I'm often asked, how's Mort doing nowadays? How do I answer that when they say, what's Mort Neff doing now? Should I have him write you, call you?
Oh, I'm leading a very happy... Don't have him call me. No, I'm leading a very happy existence. I live in Harbor Springs. I live out on the shore in a rather a remote area, and I do a lot of sailing up there, and I do a lot of fishing, and I do a lot of, begins with L? Loafing.
Loafing?
Yeah.
I've never known you to do that before.
I know, but your time will come too.
Well, that's hard to believe. You keep busy.
I move a lot. I think if you don't move a lot, you're just not going to continue to be ambulatory at this age. So you have to move around a lot. I walk. I don't jog. And I'm not going to endorse any breakfast foods or any other product because I can't blame it. I just, I figure let's put it this way. Look, it's all in the genes. My grandfather was 92, my mother died at 85, and it's all in the genes, really is. Depends on your heritage, I think.
Everybody thought that there's no way that you could retire. I mean, people close to you, your family said, nope, he won't retire, because you talked about it for years.
Yeah.
For years, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna hire some people. They said, Mort Neff will not be able to handle retirement. You will work right up to the bitter end.
I don't think that.
You retired.
Well, I definitely did retire, but I figured at what was it, 72 when I retired, I think it's long enough to do a job.
But you had done that show for 23 years, 52 weeks a year. What was it like for those first few weeks off? Wasn't it sad?
Lonesome. I really was. It hurt. It's gonna hurt you when you quit too, because there's a certain, what the heck, I shouldn't say certain, the whole thing, it's a very glamorous occupation. It's a big challenge. But if you got a little ham in you, you got a little ham in you.
A little bit.
And you can carry on, and of course you have to continue to have a knowledge of the outdoors, wildlife, and everything that goes with it. And you don't want to let that knowledge sag either. Keep reading. Keep reading.
I know people recognize you today in the restaurant, everywhere we go. After you walk by, people say, that was Mort Neff. Why? They go into a whole tirade about how they used to watch you.
I don't know where the memory comes from. They certainly have great recollection, though. It's true. Almost anywhere I go in Michigan, people seem to recognize me and remember the good old days. It's very flattering. It's great. Love it.
I love it when they call me Mort. They call me Mort. Hey, Mort, how you doing? I think it's great.
I got a letter last week from a kid down in Vicksburg, 10-year-old boy. His mother had written to me and told me that he was going to write me, and he wrote me a letter, and she said his name is Mike Neff. But she said he wants to be called Mort. And he wrote a letter to me and he signed it Mort Neff. Yeah, great boy. I bet he grows up to be an outdoorsman.
Yeah.
He told me about bluegill fishing, taught me a few things. He says, come on down, I'll show you how to catch some big bluegills. I'd like to know that.
You must still get letters from fans and people who find your address?
Yeah, they do that.
They'll do that after we put this on the air.
Well, that's all right. You want to write to me, just write to me in Harbor Springs, that's all.
Mort Neff?
Harbor Springs, that's all.
What's the zip?
Oh, 49740. 49740. Yeah. Love to hear from you. I answer all my mail. You do too.
Well, I do. I'm going to. I'll catch up. Boy, you know the letters. That is a job.
Well, you said you were getting 800 letters a week. 800 letters.
As it gets into the fall.
Better.
Fortunately, only about 20 or 30 of them have questions.
Yeah,
That's still a chore.
it's still a chore.
Everything to do. But
Don't let it go. Very important. Very important.
so you want to hear from? What would you like to hear from the folks? Any questions you have?
Anything they'd like to know, if I can help them, if they think I can help them more than you can, Fred, but I really think today that you're a better source than I am.
Not about the history of Michigan outdoors.
This man knows the outdoors in Michigan intimately. From the time he did a radio show in the 1940s, began TV in 1951. For 23 consecutive years, Mort Neff appeared on the show, and for hours, Mort and I talked in Ludington last summer, enjoying every minute. But unfortunately, television time forces us to end this visit much sooner than I'd like.
Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about, say, about audiences here? Right there. The old camera, looking in the camera. You miss looking in the old camera?
Oh, yeah, I miss looking in the old camera now and then, but when I see those things now, I think of all the times that I was on that end of the camera, too, don't you? Oh, those were the days, all right. But being on television that long is something that, all I can say that it was habit forming. In the first few months that I was off of that camera, I thought, I'm lost. I thought life has come to an end. But I've adjusted. I found out, you found out too, that you can really live a great life without that monkey on your back.
Yeah, every week, week after week. But it's so amazing how many people do recognize you and don't realize you've been off the air for, what, 10 years? 12 years?
9 years, yeah. But I'll tell you this, people made that show. You found this out too. You would think, they'd see you on the street and say, how in the world do you figure out what's going to happen next week? You don't figure it out. The people out there figure it out because they write to you and say, hey, I've got a crazy squirrel up in my house that wants to be a pet, or I've got a rough grouse that sits on my arm and lets me feed him cookies. You cover those sorts of things. You do that. Or someone calls up and say, hey, the salmon are really hitting up here. Come on up and we'll fish off the pier or whatnot off a boat. Anyway, the people make the show. And you know that as well as I do.
Yeah.
You don't contrive these things. They come from the tips from the audience. And that's how we made 1 million friends in all those long years. I loved it.
Mort Neff made millions of friends because of the kind of man he is, a legend in his own time. Nobody appreciates what he did for the outdoors on television more than I. Well, maybe other people do too, but in my eyes, this man deserves the credit for what I'm doing on television today. Mort Neff alone is Mr. Michigan Outdoors.
Only one update on that story. Mort Neff is now 83 years old, not 82. He had a birthday in December, but he's still enjoying the outdoors, going strong the way it should be. As far as the outdoors this weekend goes, if you're looking for ice fishing, the Lower Peninsula is going to be tough sledding because the ice is not safe in most areas, although the fish are there, and from time to time when anglers have got out there, they've gotten some good catches. You're just going to have to wait. Colder weather is what we need. Up in the Upper Peninsula, only an inch of snow in the eastern UP. Harry's Place in Muskong Bay says they have 4 to 10 inches of ice and some good fishing. Half a foot of snow around Bayshore Resort in Gladstone. Perch are being caught midday. The ice is good, but not safe enough for cars yet. Plenty of safe ice up in the western UP. Dick's Favorite Sports in Houghton says it's quiet, although they 22-pound pike from Chassel Bay just the other day. Dick also said he has one of his best years, $200 entered in his big buck contest with some huge racks. He sent us some photos, and let's start off by looking at them in our trophy book.
Dick wasn't kidding. Here's a buck that Jim Stengel took during rifle season. Look at that big, heavy rack. Charlie Bonini came in with one that has a tine Charlie is holding in his left hand. It's on the right side of your picture. That tine has to be 12 inches long. Now, these tines aren't as long, but there are at least 10 points here. The rack is a wide one, over 20 inches, I'd guess. That's Paul Capella's buck. And Arnie Kakanian is holding a buck that has 2 matching tines that have got to be a foot long each. These 4 racks were from Dick's favorite sports up in Houghton. The UP still produces some awesome bucks. Going back to our trophy book of Stroh's Hunting and Fishing Award winners, we have Gary Hopp from Scandia, who took this 10-pointer with a .357 Magnum from Alger County a year ago. Bob Bowen from Holt took this buck, a 17-pointer, his second in 2 consecutive seasons. Now, both were taken on the 3rd day of the season at 10 o'clock in the morning from the same blind, Ingham County. What luck. As deer season draws to a close, the anglers get more active again. Dick Schultz from Bay City caught this Menominee whitefish, 18 inches long, 1 pound 4 ounces from Tawas Bay. Steelheader Ben Knoll from Portage took an unexpected trophy channel catfish on spawn from the St. Joe River early in December. It's 30 inches long, weighed 10 pounds 10 ounces. Muzzleloading season a year ago, Phyllis Brenningstall from Fowlerville took her 5th deer in 20 years of hunting, this time with a muzzleloader. That's from Livingston County. And a year ago on December 31st, Harold Fair from Armada was ice fishing in Marquette County's Lake Independence. He caught a nearly 2-pound perch. And here's an inspirational feat. Dave Nesson from Middleville took this bear a year ago hunting near Newberry with guide Dale Robinson. Dave's a wheelchair user. It's more difficult, for sure, but it's not impossible. He's determined to find ways to participate in hunting and fishing for the rest of his life. And for that, we're going to make Dave Nesson from Middleville our Michigan Outdoors Sportsman of the Week. John Kazuski brought us one of the most interesting trophy stories we've ever heard. He's underage, but he got a buck. If there was ever a candidate for the Deer Hunters Hall of Fame, you're looking at him right here. John Kazuski, put it there. How you doing?
Good.
John has a deer hunting story. Well, also his father, Andy, and mom, Kathy, has a deer hunting story, which is absolutely incredible. What's your trophy, John? What's a trophy deer you got?
A spike.
A spike buck. Look at the antlers right here. This spike buck, John got with what? A bow, a gun?
A bow.
A bow. Now, the bow we're talking about is right here. This is what you got him, Andy, to hunt
This
with?
is what I got him to hunt with, to start out with.
Now, let's go back. Obviously, John is not an old veteran hunter. How old were you, John, when you got this deer?
4.
4 years old. The story is building here. Some people are saying, holy cow, this is illegal. Kid that young can't hunt. Take a look at the arrow. Look at this. This is the arrow that John used, a rubber-tipped arrow with feather fletching here. That's cool. Andy, you told Bob Garner about the story during elk season last year. How about summing up how this happened, how John got a deer at 4 years old?
Well, John decided that he wanted to be a deer hunter like his dad and a bow hunter, so we got him outfitted, and he built a blind along with help from his sister and his cousin in the backyard, and patiently sat there and watched the deer as they'd come up and take a shot once in a while.
Okay, now let's go back. The Kazuskis come from Atlanta, up in the Canada Creek Club, up in God's country, up in northern Michigan.
That's right.
And here are some of the deer. In fact, this is the buck that we're talking about in your backyard.
In our backyard.
And you feed him. It almost looks like a bird feeder here, right there. There's the little buck that John so patiently was waiting for all season long. And this was in 1982, right? And this was just not too far away. And here's John's blind, and you say this is right by your driveway? Mm-hmm. So how often would you hunt? John, how?
Almost every day.
About every day you'd go out? Would your dad go out every day?
No.
You wouldn't?
Just about. Just about.
Okay. This was in 1982, and you were sitting in that blind, and what happened?
Well, I waited there for a while, and the deer have to come across the back road to get to.
To your feed pile there.
Mm-hmm. And I was waiting, and I waited for a shot, and I saw a spike. So I waited until he turned right, and he wasn't looking at me, and I drew back my bow, and I took a shot, and I hit it.
You hit it with this arrow, with the rubber-tipped arrow. You saw this, didn't you, Andy?
We watched it from the kitchen window.
And he made a good shot. Of course, obviously, the deer was unhurt. But now, how do we explain the trophy?
Well, after the The event happened. The deer kept coming back to the feeder as the seasons progressed and as winter came along. And we watched out the window one day and watched him lose his last antler right by the feeder. We went out and were able to recover both of them.
Both antlers, which were mounted, then this is a classy little mount.
It was done by a friend of ours in Onaway.
That's great. John, you take hold of that. I tell you what I'm going to do. You're going to be a lifetime member of our outdoors club, okay? And you got one of the last hats like that with that patch. Another thing, you can bring John up to the outdoor fair.
We'd love to.
Because I tell you why, we have a duck calling contest. And you folks haven't seen anything yet. John, here he is at 8 years old right now. Go ahead, give us a lesson in duck calling. Isn't that great to see a youngster like John Kozuski, all the skills he has, and to think of the visions he has for his future hunting and fishing? Well, I tell you, it'll be great, especially for the next 10, 20, 30, maybe 40 years. The problem comes in, which is something we're working with in our Outdoors Forever program, when people hit 50 and 60 and 65. How often do we see them out in the streams? How often do we see them out hunting in the woods? Not nearly often enough. In fact, I checked the statistics from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to find out what the participation is as people get older in hunting and fishing. I found that between 80 and 90% of all hunters and fishermen drop out when they hit age 65. Drop right out. Why? A range of physical difficulties, back problems, heart problems, whether it's diabetes or just plain getting older and tireder and arthritis, hearing difficulties, vision. All of these things affect senior citizens and cause, unfortunately, up to 90% of them to drop out of hunting and fishing. I'm concerned about that for all of us. And that's one thing we're addressing in Outdoors Forever. Where are we going to find the solutions? Interestingly enough, we find them through our handicappers. This is where Outdoors Forever began, trying to find solutions to handicap hunting and fishing. And we're doing this. We're finding that we can take people even in wheelchairs. Here's 19-year-old Dan Behrens, motorcycle accident, 19 years old. Always hunted and fished as a youngster. We got him out fishing again. Now, he couldn't move his chair up and down the deck, but we got a spot where he could fish, he could catch some perch, he could be out there with us, and it was great. The only problems was in the mobility, get him on and off of the boat. But the solutions to handicappers, whether it's circulation or access or whatever, they go for the seniors as well. Another concern we have is youngsters. Youth is a big part of our Outdoors Forever program because we don't want these youngsters to have difficulties, to lose their hearing, to lose their eyesight, to have accidents that would put them in wheelchairs or cause them to drop out of hunting and fishing because of some physical difficulties. We want to prepare them for these years ahead. That's mighty important, that these youngsters look ahead and realize the abilities they have. We want to help them extend these abilities. If they're good shooters at 14 years old, we want to help them be good shooters all their lives if we can. But more importantly, we want to keep them in hunting and fishing. What can you do? How can you play a part of Outdoors Forever? Well, one thing, just be determined yourself that you're going to stay in the outdoors, that you're going to use maybe some different equipment, different techniques, but you're going to do it. We have a special section in our Outdoor Digest on Outdoors Forever. Fill out the survey we have at the end. Send it in. It's good information that we can use. And with these answers, hopefully we can get everybody, right from John Kozuski on up, enjoying the Outdoors Forever. You can see Outdoors Forever at all of our events. They're coming up right now on our outdoor calendar.
January 10th, 1987 is our Stroh's Hunting and Fishing Awards deadline. Deer and elk must be 10 points or more, and turkeys must have an 8-inch or longer beard. Black bear is a new category in the Stroh's Hunting Awards and must be a minimum of 250 pounds. The Fishing Awards deadline is also January 10th, 1987, and those who entered the DNR Master Angler program are automatically entered. Fish meeting or exceeding the Stroh's Award minimum length must have their applications in by January 10th. Minimum lengths for each species of Michigan fish can be found in Fred Trost's Outdoor Digest. The deadline for the Fish and Wild Game Cooking Contest is February 16th, 1987. There are 5 categories in which you can enter your favorite recipe: dips and appetizers, chowders, soups and stews, small game entrees, fish entrees, and big game entrees. Now this year all recipes must be entered on an official entry form, which is in Fred Trost's Outdoor Digest. No entries will be accepted unless they are on the official form. Fred Trost Hunting Awards Banquet is slated for Saturday, February 21st, 1987 at Roma's of Livonia. There you'll find the biggest bucks, elk, turkey, and bear taken in 1986. And Fred Trost Fishing Awards Banquet is also slated for Roma's of Livonia, Saturday, March 7th. The biggest fish and the best fish stories of 1987 will be there for you to see and hear. Fred Trost Outdoor Fair is set for Friday through Sunday, June 26th through the 28th at Houghton Lake. Be sure and schedule your vacation time so you can join us at the fair. You can get more information on any of these events by calling Fred Trost Outdoors Club at 517-337-8142. And that's a look at this week's Michigan Outdoors calendar.
Hope you'll be able to join us in some of our events this coming year. That's where you can get a lot of your questions asked. Ask questions to Bob Garner about, say, bass fishing. John Biddlecone from Battle Creek wrote, Bob, a question just for you. He says, in Clear Lake near Big Rapids, the bass are long and slender. Podunk Lake near Hastings has bass that are short and fatter. What causes a situation like that?
Well, it's pretty much indicative of the food situation. You know,
They get a little heavier when
that's right. If you've got lots of food, you're going to be kind of short and fatter. If you don't have much, you're going to be slender and a little leaner.
And that's the long and short of it.
That is the long and short of it.
Also, could be some genetics. In fact, it could be indicate sort of a bad condition when the fish are long and narrow like that they're not as healthy, probably stunted.
That could
even.
be. Rick Robinson from Climax, Michigan writes and says, wants to ask, how long will smoked fish last?
It's a good question because a lot of people think that if you smoke fish or smoke some food, it'll last a long time. But that's not really true. The smoking gives it flavor. The salt cures it and gives it a little longer shelf life, but not much. The moisture, you know, the way we like smoked fish, it's real moist.
Oh, yeah.
That lets bacteria in to get it moldy, even in a refrigerator if you leave it there too long. So you want to eat that stuff fairly quickly. Wouldn't you recommend
Absolutely
eating
no problem in my house in eating that quickly.
eating it quickly? Okay, that's a wrap up on our mailbag. Now let's take a look at this week's question and our outdoor quiz.
Some animals sleep more than others. What seems to make the difference? As an animal's danger factor goes up, its sleep time goes down, according to the National Wildlife Magazine. Opossums with few enemies may sleep 20 hours a day, but the small roe deer with many enemies will doze only about 2.5 hours each night.
I know the last thing on your mind is more food. After stuffing on turkey and all the trimmings, this might not look so great, but let me tell you about it. Nancy Krakewicz from Free Soil sent this recipe for cream cheese fish rolls to us. It took the #1 spot in our wild game and fish cooking contest last March, and it's just a top drawer fish recipe.
Oh, stuffed or not, you have to try this. Have to have a taste of it. It's like an appetizer, really.
It is, and it is.
Tighter turkey and ham. It would be great.
It's called cream cheese fish rolls, and the fish you could use, there's some walleye
Yep.
in the background, some catfish right there.
Okay, you really can't tell the difference once they're cooked either. They
You can't, and that's good
taste-
white fish.
Oh, great fillets. Yeah, cream cheese, and we use the softened kind. Breadcrumbs and egg, onions and mushrooms, and just going to kind of fry those. Just saute them in butter. And she says to use real butter. She sounds like she knows what she's talking about.
This is typical of the recipes that win in our contest and the ones that the judges like because it's simple.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's elegant,
Yep.
tastes great.
Looks good. Looks like you've cooked all day long in something like this. Going to mix up your cream cheese, then put the onions and mushrooms and butter. You want the butter to go in here too, instead of trying to drain it off.
Oh, you don't want to miss a bit of richness.
You sure don't.
Watch that
Oh,
egg.
I know. Okay, going to add 2 tablespoons of the breadcrumbs right to the mix here.
Well, at least
So-
2 tablespoons.
Yeah, well, maybe a little bit more. It's going to kind of go a little bit there. And this mixes up fairly easy. And you're just going to pound these.
And that's a good dip,
So-
by the way. You could serve that as a dip.
Yeah, just like that.
If for some reason the pounding process got a little out of hand now, you used for the first time you tried this with a regular meat pounder.
Yep. It worked good to me. I
Oh,
thought
it did. It did. You
that
pounded
little fillet was just flattening out like it's supposed to.
Yeah, pounded the
But
daylights right out of
so
the
was the wax paper.
wax paper and the fish.
Yep. I had picked the little pieces out. So
We
you
tried
want
it
to use
again.
the flat side, definitely.
Found out that this works just as good.
Yep, flattened out just like it's supposed to. Okay, and then you could, once they're flattened out without the wax paper, you're gonna put the cream mixture on these.
I think that flattening it would sort of tenderize it a little bit.
Oh yeah, it does.
And it would flatten it out
Well,
and make
they're
it...
even then. You know,
Sure.
you don't have thick and then thin.
Wrap them up.
Yep, dip them in egg. You want to roll them pretty good in egg because you want the breadcrumbs to stick. And go roll them in breadcrumbs.
So this has breadcrumbs in it
Yep.
and on the outside.
Well, the breadcrumbs inside just kind of holds it together.
And there they are. Bob Garner is already done with his first one, and I suppose you want us to remove this large one,
Freddie,
Bob?
under penalty of death, you better give me that.
Okay. There it is.
Safer for all of us.
You've heard about the greatest fish stories, okay? This is the greatest fish recipe ever told on camera. This
Well-
is phenomenal.
This is how it was ranked by our judges as being tops.
The best.
And, yeah, let's take a look here. I'll use mine to cut it in half, and you can see the fish is rolled around the outside with those mushrooms and the onions and the cream cheese in the middle. It makes it very light,
Oh, it does.
tasty.
And like I say, when you're tired of turkey and ham, it's different.
This would be a great recipe for New Year's Day.
Oh, would.
You know, we'll get some letters from people that say you threw a lot of junk on the fish and the fish won't taste through. It does taste through.
Oh, yeah.
This is the greatest fish recipe.
That's the testimonial, folks. You might want to try this out on New Year's Day. Whatever you do, try to get outdoors this weekend. It's a great place to be. We'll see you here on New Year's next week.
If you'd like a copy of this recipe for cream cheese fish rolls, it's in the November-December issue of Fred Trost's Outdoor Digest. Also included in this issue of the Digest are articles on freak deer antlers, deer beds, and bullet performance. There's also a special 8-page Outdoors Forever supplement that explains the goals and aims of Outdoors Forever and tells what you can do to help. For a free copy of Fred Trost's Outdoor Digest and information on how you can join our Outdoors Club, write to us here at Fred Trost's Outdoor Digest, P.O. Box 6001, East Lansing, Michigan, 48823.
The salmon are really hitting up here. Come on up and we'll fish off the pier or whatnot off a boat. Anyway, the people make the show. And you know that as well as I do.
Yeah.
You don't contrive these things. They come from the tips from the audience. And that's how we made 1 million friends in all those long years. I loved it.
Mort Neff made millions of friends because of the kind of man he is, a legend in his own time. Nobody appreciates what he did for the outdoors on television more than I. Well, maybe other people do too, but in my eyes, this man deserves the credit for what I'm doing on television today. Mort Neff alone is Mr. Michigan Outdoors.